The Galactic Council chamber stretched wide like an enormous stadium, filled with strange beings from 12 different worlds. Some floated in tanks of green liquid. Others stood on platforms of ice or fire. The chamber was designed to keep everyone comfortable, no matter what kind of world they came from. Ambassador Marcus Webb stood at the human podium, straightening his blue uniform jacket. He'd been representing Earth here for 5 years now, and every day felt like pushing a boulder uphill. Around him, the alien council members barely paid attention. The Zenthariai looked like walking crystals, tall and glittering, refracting light in rainbow patterns. Their leader, High Arbiter Kelmoth, lounged in his seat like a king on a throne. The Kolvari resembled giant insects with too many legs, their mandibles clicking in constant rhythm. Their representative, Councillor Vexthar, was reviewing documents on a holographic screen, not even pretending to listen. Marcus cleared his throat. Honored council members, I present Proposal 43. Human engineers have developed a solution to the energy crisis affecting the Outer Rim colonies. We can increase power output by 60% while reducing fuel consumption by. Noted, Kelmoth interrupted, his voice like wind chimes in a storm. We will review it later. Next item on the agenda. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. Later meant never. Just like the previous 42 proposals. He'd spent 6 months working with Dr. William Foster and the engineering team on this solution. Real people were suffering in those colonies, dealing with rolling blackouts and failing life support systems. But the council didn't care about human ideas. If I may, Marcus tried again, the Outer Rim situation is becoming critical. Ambassador Webb, Vexthar clicked, his compound eyes finally looking up. We appreciate human enthusiasm. However, perhaps your people should focus on the tasks we have already assigned. The mining operations in Sector 7 need expansion. Your species has proven quite good at that sort of work. The dangerous work, Marcus thought bitterly. The work that no other species wanted to do. Sector 7 was filled with unstable asteroids and radiation storms. Human miners had already increased output there by 40%, working in conditions that would kill most other species. And what did humanity get in return? More assignments to dangerous places. Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Stone watched from the gallery above, her arms crossed. She caught Marcus's eye and held up her datapad, tapping it twice. Their private signal. Bad news waiting. The council session dragged on for another 3 hours. Proposal after proposal from other species was approved with little discussion. The Zenthariai wanted new territory, approved. The Kolvari requested additional trade privileges, approved. A dozen decisions made quickly and easily. When Marcus submitted a proposal for human colonies to receive the same trade benefits, it was taken under advisement. After the session finally ended, Marcus met Rebecca in their delegation's small office. Compared to the vast chambers assigned to other species, the human space was barely larger than a closet. Tell me, Marcus said, dropping into his chair. Rebecca didn't sugarcoat it. Remember the Void Raider defense grid? The one Commander Henry Blackwood designed. The system that finally stopped the raiders from attacking shipping lanes? That saved thousands of lives. The council just issued a press release. They're taking full credit. Henry's name has been removed from all official records. Marcus stared at her. They can't do that. They just did. And there's more. Dr. Elizabeth Morris's terraforming breakthrough? The technique that turns dead worlds into gardens? They're calling it a collaborative council achievement. None of our scientists are mentioned. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Beyond the glass, the council city sparkled with lights and flying vehicles. Human engineers had designed the new power grid that made it all possible. Human architects had solved the housing crisis. Human programmers had created the traffic control system that kept 10 million aliens moving safely through the city. Everywhere he looked, he saw human contributions making life better for everyone else. But humanity itself remained stuck at the bottom of the galactic ladder, forever the junior species. 50 years, Marcus said quietly. Earth joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago. We've served loyally, innovated constantly, and defended council space against threats. We've asked for nothing except fair treatment. And what do we have to show for it? Rebecca joined him at the window. Mining rights to dangerous sectors. Credit for nothing we've actually done. And a seat at a table where our voice doesn't matter. A message arrived on Marcus's datapad. It was from New Hope Colony, the world that human terraformers had spent 2 years transforming from a lifeless rock into a paradise. The message was from Dr. Morris herself. Marcus, I just heard. The council is reassigning new hope to the Zenthariai. They say it's more efficiently utilized under their control. We're being offered Moon Base 17 as compensation. That's an ice ball in the middle of nowhere. 2 years of my life. 2 years of work from 3,000 colonists. And they're just taking it. Rebecca read over his shoulder. Can they do that? Marcus opened the council charter and found the clause. Eminent domain for the greater good. The council could reassign any territory if they deemed it necessary. Of course, they only ever deemed it necessary when taking something from humans. That night, Marcus sat alone in his quarters, staring at a picture of Earth. The blue planet looked so small from 30 light-years away. So vulnerable. The council had promised protection, partnership, and prosperity. They'd delivered none of it. He opened a new document on his computer and began typing. Not another proposal that would be ignored. Not another plea for fairness that would be dismissed. This was something different. Project Exodus, initial planning document. At the top, he wrote a single question: what if we just left? His finger hovered over the send button. Once he sent this to the colonial governors, to the fleet admirals, to the science directors, there would be no going back. This was the beginning of something that would change everything. Marcus pressed send. Within an hour, he had 50 responses. Within a day, 200. The message was always the same: we're ready. Just give the word. Humanity had been patient for 50 years. But patience had its limits. 2 years passed like a slow-burning fuse. Marcus kept his diplomatic smile in every council meeting while secretly coordinating with human colonies across the galaxy. Plans were made quietly. Ships were built in hidden locations. Nobody noticed because the council had stopped paying attention to what humans actually did. Then the Void Raiders attacked. Admiral Patrick Morrison's face filled Marcus's private screen, emergency alarms wailing in the background. Smoke drifted behind him, and his uniform was torn. They hit Darwin Colony first. Then New Sheffield. Port Victoria just went dark. Marcus, they knew exactly where to strike. Every target was a human settlement. Marcus felt ice in his stomach. Casualties? Patrick's voice cracked. 2 million dead. Another 3 million wounded or missing. They bypassed our defense satellites like they had the access codes. He paused meaningfully. Because someone gave them the codes. The implication hung in the air like poison. The council had leaked human colony locations to the raiders. I've requested military support from the council, Marcus said, already knowing the answer. Patrick's bitter laugh confirmed it. Let me guess. They said no. Resource allocation priorities. They can't spare ships right now. My people are dying. Patrick slammed his fist on something off-screen. We defended council space for 50 years. Now when we need help, they turn their backs. Marcus, we're out here alone, bleeding, and they don't care. I know. How long until the Freedom Fleet is ready? Patrick understood immediately. 4 months. Maybe 3 if we push. The shipyards are hidden in the asteroid belts. We've been stockpiling supplies for 2 years. Nobody's noticed. After the transmission ended, Marcus walked through the council district. Aliens of every species moved past him, shopping in stores improved by human retail systems, eating food preserved by human agricultural science, breathing air filtered by human environmental technology. None of them even looked at him. To them, humans were invisible servants who kept their comfortable lives running smoothly. Dr. William Foster found him on an observation deck overlooking the glittering city below. The elderly scientist had become Marcus's closest advisor, his white hair and wrinkled face showing the strain of the past years. You look like a man preparing for war, William said quietly. Not war. Divorce. Marcus turned to face him. The technological sharing mandate vote is tomorrow. William nodded grimly. The one where they legally steal every patent we've ever filed. I've read the proposal. Every other species keeps their intellectual property rights. Only humans have to surrender everything. They're taking it all, William. Every innovation, every breakthrough. And we get nothing in return. I've already prepared for this, William said, pulling out a data chip. The real breakthroughs, the quantum fold drives, the zero-point energy cores, the biological regeneration technology, none of that is in our official patents. I've been keeping our best work hidden. They have no idea what we're actually capable of. The next day, Marcus stood in the council chamber as they voted on the technological sharing mandate. The proposal was clear. All human innovations would become public property, free for any council species to use. Patents from other species remained protected. This seems unfair, Marcus noted calmly, though anger burned in his chest. Vexthar clicked impatiently. Human innovation serves the greater good. Your species benefits from council protection. This is the price. Protection you just refused to provide when we were attacked. Kelmotha's crystalline voice cut through the chamber. The raid incident is under review. Now, shall we vote? The vote took 30 seconds. Unanimous approval from all council members. Human objections were noted and dismissed, as always. Marcus gathered his tablet slowly. I suppose we have nothing left to protect then. The council members didn't understand what he meant. They never had understood humans. 1 week later, Marcus submitted humanity's final proposal. After 50 years of loyal service, countless innovations, and defending council space against enemies, humans requested equal voting rights. A simple proposal. A fair proposal. The vote lasted 15 seconds. 11 votes against. 0 votes for. Humans couldn't even vote on their own proposal. High Arbiter Kelmoth didn't bother hiding his amusement. Perhaps in another century, Ambassador Webb, when your species has truly proven itself worthy of sitting as equals at this table. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Clicking, chiming, bubbling laughter from beings who thought themselves superior. Marcus stood. He picked up his tablet containing signatures from every human governor, admiral, scientist, and colony leader in council space. 237 signatures. Every human leader in the galaxy had agreed on what came next. Thank you, High Arbiter, Marcus said clearly. You've made our decision very easy. He walked toward the exit. Behind him, the laughter continued. Nobody noticed this was the last time they would see a human ambassador in their chamber. Captain Jennifer Hayes waited in the corridor, her military uniform crisp and ready. Admiral Morrison says the fleet is ahead of schedule. Good. Send the signal to all colonies. Begin Project Exodus. Every human world, every station, every settlement. We're leaving. All of us. Every single one. We're done begging for scraps from their table. We're going to build our own table. Jennifer smiled. It was the first genuine smile Marcus had seen in months. Where to? Somewhere they'll never find us. Somewhere we can build something better. Within hours, the evacuation began. On Darwin Colony, still rebuilding from the raider attack, Governor Thomas Wright started organizing the departure of 2 million people. On every human world across council space, the same scene played out. Orderly, efficient, and absolutely final. Human engineers began dismantling their contributions to council infrastructure. Not destroying it, humans weren't cruel, but removing the cores, the critical components, the pieces that made everything work. Within weeks, council space would start experiencing failures. But that would be the council's problem. When the council finally realized what was happening 3 weeks later, they demanded explanations. They sent security forces to stop the evacuation. They threatened sanctions and legal action. Captain Richard Barnes, overseeing the final human embassy evacuation, faced down Kelmotha's furious hologram. We're exercising our legal right to leave. Check your own laws. Article 7, Section 12. You can't survive without us. Kelmotha's voice was nearly shrill. Richard looked at the High Arbiter calmly. For 50 years we've survived despite you. Now we'll see how you survive without us. The hologram vanished. The embassy lights were disconnected. Within a day, the building stood empty, stripped of everything valuable. The humans were leaving. And they weren't coming back. The evacuation happened like clockwork. Human efficiency, they used to call it. Now that efficiency was being used to leave the council behind forever. On Darwin Colony, Governor Thomas Wright stood in the control center, watching screens show endless lines of people boarding transport ships. 2 million residents, moving in organized groups. Families carried children in bags. The elderly rode in hover chairs. Everyone moved with purpose, without panic. Sir, what about the fusion reactor? His assistant asked, pointing at the massive power plant that kept the colony running. And the water purification systems? If we take those, the colony shuts down completely. Thomas didn't hesitate. Take the reactor cores. Strip the purification system controls. We built them, we're taking our work with us. But the next occupants won't be able to. That's not our problem anymore. The same scene repeated across dozens of worlds. Human engineers carefully removed every piece of technology they'd installed. Fusion cores were extracted and loaded onto cargo ships. Computer systems were wiped clean. Agricultural systems had their control modules removed. Every improvement humans had made over 50 years was being undone, piece by piece. They weren't sabotaging anything. They were simply taking back what was theirs. Admiral Patrick Morrison commanded the Freedom Fleet from the bridge of the Endeavour, humanity's largest colony ship. Through the forward viewport, he watched hundreds of ships gathering in formation. 300 massive colony vessels, each carrying tens of thousands of people. 200 military escorts with weapons that would surprise anyone who underestimated them. Supply ships loaded with equipment, seeds, genetic samples, and everything needed to start fresh. "Admiral, Council Security is hailing us again," Commander Alice Turner reported from her station. "Demanding we explain our fleet movements." Patrick kept his eyes on the formation. "Tell them it's routine exercises." "They're not buying it anymore, sir." "Not my problem. Are we on schedule?" "Yes, sir. Last transport lifts off in 6 hours." The council finally called an emergency session when they realized something was seriously wrong. High Arbiter Kelmoth stood in the chamber, staring at the empty human delegation seat. It had been empty for weeks. Nobody had noticed. "Where is Ambassador Webb?" Kelmoth demanded. Vexthar checked his tablet, clicking nervously. "According to records, he resigned 6 months ago and returned to Earth. We've been dealing with a deputy." "And where is this deputy?" Nobody answered. Nobody knew. "Find me a human representative immediately." They found Captain Richard Barnes at the human embassy, supervising the removal of the last pieces of furniture. The building was nearly empty. Even the paintings had been taken off the walls. Kelmoth's hologram appeared before him, flickering with urgency. "Captain Barnes, explain this exodus at once." Richard didn't stop directing the movers. "We're leaving council space." "I thought that was obvious." "You cannot leave. The treaties have been reviewed thoroughly by our legal team. Article 7, Section 12 states any member species may voluntarily withdraw from council space. We've fulfilled all our existing obligations. We're free to go." "But where will you go?" "You need council trade routes. Protection. Resources." Richard finally stopped and looked directly at the hologram. "Do we? We've been providing more than we've received for 50 years. We defended ourselves when you wouldn't help. We innovated while you took credit. We asked for basic equality and you laughed at us. We can negotiate." "Negotiate what?" "You had 50 years to treat us fairly." Vexthar's hologram appeared beside Kelmoth. "We demand you cease this illegal activity." "It's not illegal. Check your own laws." "We'll impose trade sanctions." "Blockades." "Sanction what?" "We're leaving. There's nothing to blockade." "Then we'll use military force." Richard's expression went cold. "Is that a threat, Counselor? Because we may be leaving, but we're not defenseless. Ask yourself if you really want to start a war with the species that designed most of your weapons systems." The holograms flickered and vanished. Richard allowed himself a small smile. Empty threats from beings who'd grown too comfortable. Dr. Margaret Cole stood alone on New Hope, the planet humans had terraformed from bare rock into a garden paradise. She was the last human here, the last to leave the world they'd spent 2 years creating. The world the council had stolen. "Dr. Cole, the final transport is ready," her assistant called over the radio. Margaret took one last look at the green valleys and blue rivers they'd engineered into existence. "Did we get all the biological samples?" "Every seed, every genetic sequence, every terraforming organism. The databanks are completely empty." "Good." Margaret walked to the colonial headquarters one final time. She placed a handwritten note on the main console. "New Hope, built by human hands. Stolen by council decree. Maintenance protocols expire in 6 months. You wanted this world so badly. Now it's yours. Good luck keeping it alive. The terraforming team." By the time the council organized search parties to find the human fleet, there was nothing to find. Every human settlement stood empty but clean. Not destroyed, just abandoned. Like moving out of an apartment and taking your furniture with you. The search ships found only notes. One simply said, "We tried to be good neighbors. You taught us we needed better neighbors." High Arbiter Kelmoth stood in the council chamber, staring at the empty human seat. They actually left. All of them. "Send more search parties," someone suggested. "Find where they went." "And then what?" Kelmoth asked quietly. "Force them to return? We don't have that authority. We drove them away with our own arrogance. We need them. Who will maintain the systems? Nobody had an answer. On the bridge of the Endeavour, Admiral Morrison watched Council space shrink in the rear display. Any regrets? He asked Rebecca Stone, now promoted to his second-in-command. Rebecca thought about 50 years of being dismissed, exploited, and laughed at. Only that we didn't do this sooner. Ahead of them stretched unexplored space, full of possibility. Behind them, the Galactic Council was beginning to understand what they'd lost. The humans were gone. And they'd taken their brilliance with them. The first fusion reactor failed on Xanthar Prime 3 months after the humans left. Chief Engineer Colseth stared at the warning lights flashing across his control panel. Red alert screamed from every monitor. The massive reactor that powered the Xanthari capital city was experiencing cascade failures, the containment fields fluctuating wildly. What's happening? His supervisor demanded, rushing into the control room. I don't know. The system is failing and I can't stop it. Colseth pulled up the maintenance logs. Everything was written in human languages and technical terms he didn't understand. The humans designed this. Only they knew how to maintain it. Then find someone who can read their instructions. They found translators who could read the words, but understanding the engineering was different. The humans had designed elegant, efficient systems based on principles the other species hadn't fully mastered. The instructions might as well have been written in an alien code. The reactor was shut down before it melted through containment. The capital city went dark for the first time in 200 years. It wasn't just Xanthar Prime. Across Council space, systems began breaking down. Jump gates malfunctioned, leaving ships stranded between star systems. Defense platforms went offline. Automated factories stopped working. Water treatment plants failed. Climate control systems on terraformed worlds went haywire. Everything humans had built, upgraded, or maintained started dying. Councillor Vexthar called an emergency meeting of engineers from all Council species. We have the blueprints, he clicked frantically. We have the instruction manuals. Why can't we fix these systems? A Kolvari engineer gestured helplessly at the holographic displays. Because humans didn't just follow instructions. They understood the principles behind them. Look at this fusion core design. It uses quantum mechanics in ways we're still trying to understand. They made it look simple, but it's incredibly advanced. Then learn it. It took humanity decades to develop this knowledge. We can't master it in weeks. The economic collapse came next. Human efficiency had increased production across Council space by 60%. Without humans, mines produced less. Factories slowed down. Trade routes became dangerous as pirates moved in. The supply chains humans had optimized ground to a halt. Financial reports showed the grim truth. Galactic trade had fallen by almost 50%. The value of Council currency dropped. Several species faced economic disaster. This is impossible, Kelmoth insisted. We ruled the galaxy for 3,000 years before humans arrived. Yes, a financial advisor replied quietly. But we'd grown dependent on their improvements. They were the foundation holding everything together. And we never noticed. On New Hope, the Garden World, the crisis was immediate and visible. The terraforming weather systems began failing without human maintenance. Gentle rains became violent storms. Temperature regulation collapsed. Within months, the paradise was turning back into a wasteland. Xanthari colonists sent desperate messages. The humans left maintenance instructions. We need experts who understand them. But there were no experts. The humans were gone. Then the Void Raiders returned with a vengeance. Admiral Crothar commanded the Council Defense Fleet. When the raiders attacked, he used standard tactics that had worked for centuries. His fleet moved in traditional formations, following the old playbook. The raiders destroyed his forces easily. They know everything we're going to do. Crothar shouted from his damaged flagship. How is this possible? His tactical officer realized the truth. The raiders fought humans before. They had to adapt because human tactics were unpredictable and creative. Now they're ready for us, but we're still using strategies from hundreds of years ago. The humans had been the innovation. Without them, the Council was fighting with outdated methods. 3 major battles ended in disaster. The raiders captured colonies and destroyed military bases. Council casualties reached into the millions. Systems the humans had defended easily were now falling one by one. Where are the defense grids? Kelmoth demanded. The ones designed to stop Void Raider ships. Offline, Vexthar admitted. They were human-designed. We can't operate them. Then hire human mercenaries. Pay whatever they ask. Messages were sent throughout space, offering enormous sums. Every message went unanswered. The humans had disappeared completely, and they weren't interested in helping. The cultural collapse was unexpected but devastating. Entertainment production stopped. 70% of movies, music, games, and shows had been human-created. Citizens across council space suddenly had nothing new to watch or listen to. The joy and creativity humans had brought to galactic culture was simply gone. Innovation died. Patent offices that once processed thousands of human applications now received only a trickle from other species. The blueprints humanity had been forced to surrender were useless without the understanding to implement them. One human engineer had left a note in the quantum drive schematics. This requires creative thinking and intuitive problem-solving. Good luck. The council scientists were still trying to figure out what that meant. Civil unrest grew. Different species blamed each other for driving the humans away. The Draxians blamed the Xantherii. The Kolvari blamed everyone. Internal alliances fractured and broke. 2 years after the Exodus, 3 species formally quit the council. Without human innovation holding the economy together, they saw no reason to stay. They left to find their own paths, hoping to survive independently. The council chambers, once filled with 12 species, now held only 8. Half the seats sat empty. Parts of the building were unusable due to maintenance failures. The ceiling leaked. Climate control was broken. The grand symbol of galactic unity was literally falling apart. Kelmoth stood alone one evening, looking at the empty human delegation chair. Dust covered it. Nobody had cleaned it in 2 years. We had something precious, he said to the empty room. And we treated it like garbage. Outside the windows, another fusion reactor failed somewhere in the city. The lights flickered and dimmed. The golden age was over. The council's long, slow collapse had begun. And somewhere in the darkness of space, beyond where council ships could reach, humanity was thriving without them. The lesson had been taught. But the students had failed to learn it in time. High Arbiter Kelmoth stood in the council chambers, looking at the empty seats. Only 8 species remained. 4 had abandoned the council completely. The grand chamber that once gleamed with power now showed signs of decay. Ceiling panels were missing. The climate control system worked only half the time. Nobody knew how to fix it properly. Kelmoth himself had aged badly. His crystalline form, once bright and colorful, had turned dull gray. The stress of watching an empire collapse had taken its toll. Another reactor failed on Kolvari Prime, Vexthar reported, his clicking slow and tired. That makes 15 this year. Do we have replacements? No. We never learned to make them. Only humans could do that. It was always the same answer. For 10 years, the council had struggled and failed to maintain what humans had built. The infrastructure continued its slow death. The economy never recovered. The Void Raiders controlled 40% of former council territory now. Then came the discovery that changed everything. Captain Lewis Grant commanded a council scout ship exploring the edge of known space. His sensors detected something unusual in the uncharted regions beyond council borders. "Sir, I'm reading multiple energy signatures," his sensor operator reported. "Advanced technology. Dozens of colonies. Defense platforms that are more powerful than anything we have." Lewis studied the readings carefully. "That's human technology. But much more advanced than what they had when they left. Should we investigate closer?" Lewis knew it was against regulations, but curiosity won. "Let's take a look." What they found stunned them into silence. Planets. Dozens of them. All terraformed into garden worlds. Massive space stations orbiting with lights blazing. Ships moving with propulsion systems the council had never seen. Cities that gleamed with power from unknown energy sources. Defense satellites that made council military technology look ancient. And all of it was human. "They didn't just survive," Lewis whispered. "They built something incredible." The scans showed more. Other species lived among the humans. Species that had fled council space over the years, seeking better lives. They'd found it with humanity. The report reached Kelmoth 3 days later. He watched the visual recordings with growing despair. The human civilization was thriving. In 10 years, they'd built something that rivaled the council at its peak. More than that, they'd surpassed it. They did all this in 10 years. Vexthar clicked in disbelief. "They were always capable of this," Kelmoth said quietly. "We just never let them show it." Kelmoth composed a message himself. He chose his words carefully, asking for dialogue. Perhaps a new treaty. Maybe forgiveness. The council needed help desperately. Surely the humans would understand. The response came 2 weeks later. It wasn't from Marcus Webb. He'd retired apparently. Instead, a woman named Counselor Rebecca Stone appeared on the screen. She wore a simple uniform with symbols of the Human Federation on her shoulder. To the Galactic Council, she began, her voice professional but cold. We received your proposal for renewed diplomatic relations. The Human Federation Council reviewed it. Our council includes representatives from 6 different species who joined us over the past decade. We believe in equal representation. Kelmoth felt hope rising. They were willing to talk. After careful consideration and a unanimous vote, we must decline your proposal. The hope died. We understand you're facing difficulties, Rebecca continued. We understand the Void Raiders are causing problems. We understand your economy has collapsed. These difficulties are unfortunate, but they are the consequences of your own choices. For 50 years, we served your council. We innovated, defended, built, and contributed. In return, we were dismissed, exploited, and laughed at. When we asked for equality, you told us to wait another century. Rebecca's expression didn't change. So we took your advice. We'll reconsider your proposal in another century. Perhaps by then, you'll have proven yourselves worthy of partnership. Kelmoth recognized his own words from a decade ago, thrown back at him. We don't hate you, Rebecca said. We simply built something better. A place where all voices matter equally. Where innovation is celebrated, not stolen. Where hard work is rewarded, not exploited. We wish you luck with your problems. We're confident you'll find solutions eventually. Until then, focus on helping yourselves. The message ended with footage of human worlds. Children playing in parks. Mixed species crews working together on starships. Thriving cities powered by clean energy. A civilization built on cooperation and respect. Everything the council could have had if they treated humans as equals. The chamber fell silent. Several councillors had left during the message, unable to watch their failure displayed so clearly. Can we convince them? Someone asked. Offer them anything? They don't need anything we have, Vexstar replied. They've built better. A young aide approached nervously. Your Excellency, the structural damage in the East Wing is getting worse. The engineers say without proper maintenance, the entire section might collapse. Add it to the list, Kelmoth said tiredly. The list of failing systems was very long now. Days later, another message came. Not from the Council's request, but from refugees. A Council colony world had been abandoned as indefensible against the Void Raiders. The survivors had fled to human space, begging for help. The humans took them in. Gave them homes. Integrated them into their society as equals. The Council had pushed people away. The Federation welcomed them. Administrator Daniel Foster, grandson of the scientist who'd helped plan the Exodus, stood on New Terra watching another group of refugees arrive. They keep coming, his assistant said. Former Council citizens seeking a better life. Then we'll keep welcoming them, Daniel replied. That's what we do. We help those who need it. We just won't help those who refuse to help us. The Council is still sending messages begging for assistance. Let them beg. For 50 years, we begged for fairness. Now they know how it feels. In the council chambers, Kelmoth sat alone in the growing darkness. Another power failure. The emergency lights cast shadows across the empty seats. A junior counselor entered. High Arbiter, should we send another delegation? Perhaps if we apologize. They won't come back, Kelmoth interrupted. We had partners who could have made us stronger. Instead, we treated them as servants. Now they've become something we can never reach. Through the broken windows, he could see stars twinkling in the distance. Some of those stars now belong to human space. Bright, distant, and forever beyond council grasp. We failed, Kelmoth said to the empty room. Not because we weren't strong enough. But because we weren't wise enough to recognize strength in others. Outside, another system failed. The lights went out completely. In the darkness, the High Arbiter of a dying council sat alone with his regrets. The humans had taught them a lesson. They taught it perfectly. But the council had learned it too late. Far away in the darkness of space, humanity's lights burned bright. They'd left the council behind and built something beautiful. Something fair. Something that would last. And they'd done it without looking back even once.